hello Galactic family, the call time, add time is now closer. From the summer solstice winter in the southern hemisphere, at any time, be ready. Maria, June 8, 2012. But it will, at least, of course, what has been termed the announcement of Mary, that gives back to his unit, 2. OMANHAV, 12 May 2012. Question: many times you have said that 3 days would occur during a night of very cold. On the other hand, you said the light would nuptials until July. This means that in July there will be nights very cold. They will be very cold. But if you see, in Tahiti, you can expect long the cold, is not it? The cold corresponds to Europe, of course. The 3 days are advertised as something terrifying, the prophecies already in the last century, but you are not in the same consciousness that was a century or 2 centuries. The prophets of the time they saw the 3 days, it was terrible. Yes, it's terrible for the ego. OMAVANHAV, March 3, 2012. Question: STARSEEDS, the 3 days, they symbolically correspond to the placement in the tomb funeral, before the resurrection of Christ? Yes, it can be said so. Anail, 18 Feb 2012. Question: could you tell us of the groups, the meetings and the period of 3 days? The cluster periods occur after this ascension period, after this great tribulation. The 3 days corresponds, presumably, this upward period of planetary change location. This occurs. You will have more information as it has been said on several occasions by many light entities on this planet. My mother will go to you, each of you personally, to tell them keep themselves ready, the time of the Lord is there. You will be notified individually, personally and collectively, for my mother 72 hours before the period. Question: what will be convenient to do during these 3 days? That will be revealed at that time. The most important thing is not to project these 3 days, is not project this important tipping, but prepare this event just as he prepares a birthday, an important date, long before, making sure that the party is perfect. For this, it is necessary to clean the inside of you, deal with it was not resolved. What are the attachments that still animate your soul? What are the fears that still animate your soul? And find ways, through the certainty of light, through the certainty of my love and that of the Father, of His divinity. Gradually and as you receiving your divinity, and only this, the work of the last resistance far shall be. Christ, 24 May 2007. These times are the times of resurrection. Are the times, as I said at the beginning of the month, at the end of your previous month, where several matches will take place in bulk. The astroclimatic conditions of this planet will become, in various regions of the biblical kind. Maria, 13 May 2011. I turned announced them, 3 days before the time when you must cease all outdoor activities in order to prepare to what many of my prophets called the famous 3 days. This can occur from the cross installation in your sky, until the deadline given to them by the different archangels. Maria, July 17, 2010. But I remember those who, regardless of the announcement 72 hours before, Maria, even those who do not believe in nothing and live nothing, feel what happens, or something will happen. Look at that time the animals, you will understand immediately. Because they feel good before you, almost a week before you. Om Ram 19 Set 2010. The content now. This announcement, of course, cannot be revealed now, but it is somehow a shock, but a clash of love. At that time, you will become completely clear about their own choices. Maria, July 17, 2010. My intervention in your world, and that is mine, will take place in too important and essential time to allow them to all, to all those who wish to live at last in truth and unity. I come also prepare the return from heaven, that which was called my Son, but I remember who you are, all my children, without exception. Maria 17 May 2010 I will intervene 72 hours very precisely before a key process in this mankind which has been announced by several of my sent. This was called the 3 days. At that time, in which humanity's consciousness basks in the first time in the new dimension. This first reversal will occur 72 hours after I announce solemnly, individually, collectively. Each notice this ad. Each one. No one can ignore it. Be the love vibration its rediscoveries me either by my voice, whatever it is, for some, a dream, I come to announce to you all, 3 days before. Maria 17 May 2010 Get ready for this moment, to live the first Eucharist of the Spirit, the first full outpouring of the Holy Spirit, preparing the return of Christ. The work of light, every hour, will also allow the preparation of her listening to my ad. No one can be fooled by my ad. Of course, many may deviate, but no one can say he did not hear me. No one can ignore the truth of this announcement. Maria 17 May 2010 What will happen 72 hours later is just a consequence precisely announcement of Marian that contact that is restored. They retain good that this is a contact that precede the real and effective presence of Mary on its soil, as she left, as well as the return of Christ, as he left, accompanying them in the last moments of this dissociation, for the instruction of new rules of life, corresponding to the establishment of the new dimension for those of you who will, in any case, a fifth dimension unified. Anil 30 Mayo 2010 Keep watch in the spaces of light, keep watch to keep an eye out. You will know that I come to warn them because their sounds, their perceptions of sounds change will be largely in the preceding hours. His heart, the vibration of your consciousness, manifests an intense and profound joy. At that moment, you will know already that come to you. Maria 17 May 2010 The announcement will be, first of all, vibratory, by my presence, and in that moment, you will understand what is find as mother and vibrate reconnection. And each one will hear me distinctly. This message will be sent to all without exception. Whether you like it or not hear it, whether you like it or not see it, cannot be otherwise. Maria July 17, 2010 The end of the 3 days marks the end of the physical body? Beloved, for some of you, yes, surely. For others, not. They should also keep this illusory way to collect and welcome those who have not yet opened your consciousness and are in the process of doing so. Maria 17 Mayo 2010 The 3 days will mark, for this earth that was betrayed and mortified, the earth's release even in this dimension, is the Kundalini of Gaia, the earth process. At that time, continents disappear, new lands will emerge, the sky is no longer the same, the water either. It is within this environment that modified some of my children will continue the path of incarnation, still some time to help and serve. Maria 17 Mayo 2010 Volcanoes are only part of the truth. But obviously it takes part in these 3 days. But the phenomena, besides your Earth, linked to Sun and his companion, also enter these events. Maria 17 May 2010 The body will be greatly slowed, as in hibernation, but the consciousness is fully lucid. From the moment in which the body is in stasis phenomena, the more it falls in temperature, the better. The visual senses, the olfactory senses, hearing, will be present, but the thermal sense, no. Om Ram 19 Set 2010 I would simply say that what was often called the 3 days of darkness and elsewhere, the 3 days of light, outwardly, to match you to a state of extraordinary conscience. you bathe will be in happiness the most total. You will not be affected at that time, for any outdoor event. Your consciousness and your reconnection will somehow your own shield. You will become invisible to the outside world, in this case 3 days. Now, remember them that I clearly explained my ad and how it will happen. Maria 17 Mayo 2010. But remember, too, that both the archangels, as the set of my fleet and the whole of the light vibrato fleet adapt. In the sense, it was said, by my own son, that only the source knows the date. But this date is now. The now entering a space, and in a short time, less than 2 years. Maria 17 Mayo 2010. This announcement is one and indivisible. This is the announcement that would have been expected for 3 days. It is the only and unique. Remember also that this announcement is intended for all of humanity, not within a channel, but in its own channel, the whole of humanity. But many beings deviate will this announcement, as a vague illusion or hallucination, vague, though they captured the reality of the process. There was talk of a notice of Mary during the period from 17th July to 29 September. It is a unique ad announcing the return of Mary and advertising in the same way, the 3 days. A friend 29 May 2010. Earth and heaven sound will diffuse, widespread in even more places on this earth. This sound, somehow prefigures what I have called, there is now almost 2 years, ad. Maria 27 ABR 2011. We do not know if the announcement that Mary is the mother of humanity is also the announcement of the famous 3 days. All this comes at a time that is between the delivery of the Metatronic keys, the latest, and the deadline is the end of October, beginning of November 2011. This means that, from the moment the Metatronic keys have been revealed to mankind, from the time the announcement is made, Mary, everything is possible, in the next instant. But the next moment could last a little over a year. Around July 19, 2010. The biggest push will be when Mary comes to your ad. It will be a shock. Truly a shock, even to the awakened beings. A clash of love, but a shock anyway. For some, however, it is a horror shock. In particular to all those who participated in a lucid way, the fake world. Around July 19, 2010, just before the advent of sound, the announcement made by Mary will be held. The sound will appear a few hours after. At that moment, you will have 72 hours to prepare to live the pre-ascension phenomena. Catalepsy, or STARSEEDS, are preferred. Ramo 1 ago 2009. The 12 tubes of light of your head, and by activating the triangle of the new Trinity in your heart, we will connect more and more easily among you, but also between us and you, is the goal. What we weave as interconnects with you, it makes it possible, at the time from the announcement of 3 days, which will mark the entry of this world and this creation in a new existence, prior to ascension. Maria 30 Set 2010. Why is it necessary to put humanity in STARSEEDS during that time? Simply because their bodies are subject to electromagnetic and gravitational forces. If there are more serious and more electromagnetic forces, the body, there is no longer standing. It's that simple. It is often said that it is the soul that animates the body, or the spirit, too. But if there were forces in electromagnetic gradients and gravitational forces, this body would be a rag doll. And exactly what will happen? You may not speak, but you will hear everything. His gaze is fixed. Just as you fall into STARSEEDS, the look will remain pointed about the same thing. You will feel like animals, you should stretch and lie. The body becomes too heavy. That numbs, and he will respond less and less, gradually and as the passing hours. You have 3 days to this process before it is established entirely. there are 72 hours, we caution you, and for 72 hours, everything is normal. From the beginning of 72 hours, things change. But they change gradually. Om Ram 19 Set 2010 before beginning this process, and for 3 days, it will only be bathed in sound. Everything seems to stop and everything will stop. In contrast, during the 3 days, the sea sound will leave the place to what is called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and then, you will be in catalepsy, protected by the vibration of light. This process is well known to all neophytes, but we do not know, to the present, in which precise moment it will happen. Om Ram 01 ago 2009, like many visionaries have described, the illusory world will disappear in fire, the fire of the sun, the fire of the galactic wave and earth fire. Aurobindo 09 ago 2010, some of you penetrate, at the time of Mary's announcement, in what was called the Maya Samadhi, that the Great Samadhi, still called, in language New Age, of ecstasy, that is, the 3 days of darkness, one that the human being is in joy more full, and catalepsy. This is the total surrender to the light. For now, be content to live the Samadhi of peace and the Samadhi of joy, it is already huge to live it. Then, of course, it is beyond the no fear, as well as confidence. It is the ecstasy of vibration. This is what happens when the mental supra spreads amid the chest. Om Ram July 26, 2009, the phenomenon that some have called STARSEEDS or catalepsy is a vibratory process that touches the body of personality, a certain precise moment, corresponding, say, to the premises of a number of important changes to the earth. This phenomena, called catalepsy, STARSEEDS, no matter the name you give, is not in any way an undeniable and inevitable process. What is undeniable and relentless is the birth of the new earth and dimension of you, indeed. Om Ram 02 ago 2010, but the modalities, is the announcement of Mary, is the announcement of 3 days, is the end of this size can be slightly modified, not the temporal level, but in terms of the precise mechanisms that produce. Because this will depend, now, the increasing number of human beings who awaken. So aroused, not necessarily to the spiritual level, but leaving, somehow, the lethargy in which they were. Om Ram 02 ago 2010, during catalepsy, consciousness is at the same time conscious of the body and at the same time, conscious of what I call the spiritual body. It is time also called in scripture final judgment. But it is not the end of the earth, as will occur in the final moment, as they know, anyway. It is a non-final stage, is an intermediate stage, necessary for an understanding of what you are. This understanding being connected to a direct experience of what you are and not mental projections. Om Ram 02 ago 2010, then there are words that mark the spirits because they should mark the spirits. These words, terrible, as the word judgment, final judgment, is not exactly a trial. It's just the time when you will see yourselves as you are. That moment comes. This final judgment corresponds to what was called 3 days. There is nothing to prepare, in your heart. There is nothing to fear. Maria 30 Set 2010, you will be prevented, as well as Mary said, 3 days before these 3 days, 72 hours, individually and collectively. Every human being will hear within himself the announcement of Mary. I cannot reveal them announcement Mary, but it will happen 72 hours before what is called the 3 days. Now, as to the date, of course, there are vibratory possibilities for us archangels, as for the different councils and conclaves. Forces of the intergalactic light radiate some vibratory qualities in their world. Until June 12, 2010, what is called the 3 days refers to all humankind. The ability to enter into catalepsy is linked to its own ability to penetrate the unit. During these 3 days, awakened beings are in catalepsy. Beings awake will not be agitated and running in all directions. Now, these 3 days are not 3 days of darkness. This depends on the place on earth where you find it. Is up to you to draw the necessary conclusions. What was called in the Western prophecies, the 3 days of darkness, was called on the other side of the globe, the 3-day light. On June 12, 2010, during this translational movement of the planetary orbit, your planet will stop spinning around the sun, causing half the globe remain in the day for 3 days, leaving the other half in the night for 3 nights. The noise will be intense and striking the planet's atmosphere. During this delicate phase, awakened beings will be placed in a state of catalepsy, in a state of catatonia, to avoid anywhere in their cell, brain and biological structures. Surrey, July 4, 2005. And, as you know, 3 days before, you will realize for yourself, add my these 3 days. You will find and hear a sound like no other, in the air and not only in his ears. The whole earth will hear. The trumpets will sound. They were announced by the release of the nights. The seals were all open. Maria 30 set 2010. During those 3 days, the planet Venus will approach the Earth's orbit, as happened long ago. At that moment the solar radiation will change in appearance to those who will have a chance to see during those 3 days of light. The radiation will change color. You will begin to feel the effects of a new radiation which will consist of golden light, and that is already present in this chest, the blue light from the central sun of the galaxy. Surrey, July 4, 2005. In the early hours, the aircraft will have time to land, and after, is very simple, and this will reduce both all that is electromagnetic, electronic, everything will conk. But it will not be done in a minute. Om Ram 19 set 2010. The children will take care of you, we would say. Instantly, children under 14 years will understand what happens. The animals will understand too. As before an earthquake, they will. As before a tsunami, they will. I would say that everything that has a brain will be in stasis. Om Ram 19 set 2010. These 3 days of dark and light will happen in the last phase of the pre-rise. Humans can survive this vibrational change. Will be gathered and grouped. You will be notified sometime before the onset of these phenomena. Soon after pilgrimages should happen on this planet, a voice will tell you the air and notify them 72 hours before these events. Surrey, July 4, 2005. Since the mid-Atlantic to the middle of Asia, you will be in the dark. On the opposite side, Australia, some countries on the opposite side to this Earth's surface, will be in the light. The sun will be blocked at its peak zenith and at some points to other regions of light. Surrey, July 4, 2005. The terrible noise refers to the Earth's rotation stop and radiation, the cosmic winds, which will break into your planetary system. Surrey, July 4, 2005. Catalepsy will be induced by the electromagnetic radiation and power. But we will notify them by means of the voice of the Heavenly Mother, who called Mary, heard out of the left ear, for all at once, which will alert them exactly 72 hours before the transmutation of movement. Surrey, July 4, 2005. You cannot confuse the announcement of 3 days and the experience of the 3 days, with the end of this dimension, which is another mechanism, and effectively to this. No one knows the date or the hour, but this date is part of a maximum of time. This maximum time cannot be in any case 1,000 years, but it will be a maximum of 1 year and 4 months. Within this period, everything is possible as long today as to the extreme limit. Anale June 12, 2010 inches fact. No one knows the date, but there are astronomical calendars and very real, no astrological and very concrete, which have been defined by some people that you called primitives, who lived ascension there are already several hundred years. These people have bequeathed them calendars. These calendars have been falsified in their dates, just as your Gregorian calendar was fake. Similarly, there re-encounters the level of its solar system. These reunions are part of a time schedule that you see and that you cannot deny. Anale June 12, 2010 If you are 3 days of darkness, it means that the earth will not turn over? Angry. What do you mean, too, that the rotation will not stop for a minute? Without it, there is no earth habitable. It is a movement that for very progressively. And after stasis? She will to reverse. Ram 19 Set 2010 The influence of central irradiation of the galaxy will be at its peak from August 15 his year, for a little over a year. During this period, everything is possible, but, in fact, no one knows the date or the hour, but you cannot deny, for those who have ears to hear and eyes to see, beyond even what we tell you, watch what it happens on this earth. The set of Earth's volcanoes are waking, the whole ocean is dying, as announced by John himself. Anale June 12, 2010 At what point of our Earth time the caterpillar will be grilled? It starts already, to some of you. Some people begin to feel the fire a little everywhere, is not it? Do not feel the burn, but will come before the rose feel. But we will all go through this step. The exterior is in the process of disintegration. So you see, not deconstruction, but you will see the elements in the work, the level of the earth, and you will watch the phenomena, visual phenomena, unusual manifestations, which will be very usual. It is amid this dissolution you will be taken, for those of you who still hesitate between unity and duality, to know if what I say is nonsense or truth. And well, you will realize. You mean, when you see that everything we told you, one another, comes now in its concrete reality of every day, you will have no choice but to turn to you. Ram 15 May 2010 So the planet grid, then, is a matter of time, depending on the maximum of human beings who can wake up to your unitary dimension so that the earth set fire to awaken at the same time. Today, you watch the earth fire and also the prophecies which had been given by St. John, Christ, referring to the opening of the last seals and marine pollution, underwater and air. You begin to live abruptly, I would say increasingly evident. Once again, keep that are not absolutely punishments, or divine light. This is only connected to the dissolution of this dimension, also the earth, whatever, it also become a butterfly. Ram 15 May 2010 Prophetic times are the times that you live now. They are not tomorrow, they are not for 1,000 years, they are now. Now the end of this time it is not for anyone, it results solely from the interaction of forces in presence, ending, permanently, to this illusion. This may be immediately, this can be over time, but not an infinite time. Anale June 12, 2010 My announcement is the revelation of what I am his mother at all. From this revelation, trigger are several events that have been described since ancient times by the prophets. Within these later events, not concurrently, effectively there is a specific process called 3 days of darkness. But this event is not absolutely concurrent with my ad, it succeeds, but in an appropriate time. The truth is that I prevenere the 3 days before. All my children will be prevented. Each one, then, just as for the revelation of who I am, do what your conscience dictates you. Many then continue to go to their daily occupations, without giving my ad account, without realizing my notice, it is also part of his free will. Maria 05 My 2010 Dear son, each according to the principle of attraction and resonance to their initial body prior to its decline in this matrix. Some of you will travel within as boundless consciousness a light body. Other, that is, a crystal body. Others a diamond body. And others, finally, bodies well beyond any notion anthropomorphized. Each destination is unique. I know them all, without exception, in their destinies, in their bodies, in their souls, in their spirits, but each of you is unique in terms of its stellar origin. There is a multitude of forms, vibrations, source dimensions, you reacquainted at that time. The important thing today is already live in this consciousness and this limited body to the opening of the heart and to experience the joy that gives love and heart flutter. Maria 17 My 2010 It is during the 3 days that the ascension will take place. Everything will depend on the urgency. This urgency cannot be defined as an individual, but the collective title. This sense of urgency simply corresponds to the overlapping of what was called the corner of the earth and the corner of heaven. The more you approach what was called deadlines, plus there is a chance that there is overlap between this mechanism, called the 3 days, and ascension itself. You got, like we said, one another, this upward phase. This upward phase is not carried out in a minute, even if there is a final and last time. You are in the process of ascension, in this very moment. Anal 14 ABR 2011 From the moment the ethereal forces linked to ether, not counterfeit, representing what you call different names, but I would call the galactic wave, penetrating the upper atmosphere, at that time, 1,000 demons at night is the phrase given to frighten, but this corresponds mainly to extreme geophysical changes which occur at high altitude by translating a sound. It is therefore a sign perceived abroad, who will announce them, formally, that something is happening. That's what they call the cosmic winds. Anal 18 Set 2010 This sound is the first impact of the galactic wave. The second impact will be much more consequential. The first impact is like an earth-set concussion, allowing you to release the forces that had kept chained in this disassociated dimension. The last impact, or second impact, will account for it at the end of this dimension. This corresponds to the total destruction of the 3 insulating envelopes that exist in the solar system: ionosphere, magnetosphere and heliosphere. Anal 18 Set 2010 You need to understand well, too, and accept, that the manifestations of earth and heaven, entering a new phase, will remind all human beings, vibrant or not, of what was announced by the prophets since time immemorial. It was called, of course, in very numerous reruns, the Last Judgment, but remember that there is no one besides himself that judges, and that judges always in terms of the light that you believe is in resonance with the light you really are. Maria 13 My 2011 The process of numbness will occur during what was called the 3 days of darkness. At one point, the supramental, the influx in the solar system will be such that the resonance and attraction, the Earth's crystalline core vibration, becomes noticeable in your feet and your legs or your arms. This vibrant numbing then cycle through the set of his temple, putting them in catalepsy and allowing them then face and live what is called 3 days of darkness. A friend 16 Set 2010 The more you advance to the deadline for the transformation of the solar system, in relative peace, the more you are blessed from heaven, that you will have less difficult periods to cross. Ideally, the famous 3 days occurred at the extreme limit of the transformation of the solar system. Ram 16 Out 2010 The longer there is space in your illusion, occurring before the arrival of these 3 days, the more you should rejoice. Maria 03 Out 2010